We're in the story of Saul and Benjamin again. This is 1 Samuel 14. It's a big chapter, there's lots going on, but just to kind of skip through and throw some ideas around, you've got Jonathan set up as an improvement on Saul again. And if you read back into Judges, there's a kind of parallel passage about a guy who promises to sacrifice to God the thing that kind of the first thing to come to him when he comes back after winning the battle, and he ends up sacrificing his own daughter. And some of these stories, you're a bit like, what is going on? And I think when something like that is going on, you know, in this, when Saul's kind of okay with like killing Benjamin because he's broken a promise to God, it's really interesting to look and go, what is God saying through this? Because people say and do things and ascribe it to God, but if it doesn't say God said X, Y, or Z, well, work it out. So Saul takes it that there's a problem here, that somebody sinned and that's why God isn't speaking to him. That's just what he thinks. Nowhere in this passage does it say that's what happened. It's really key that we read into these things. So Jonathan is set up as this guy who kind of doesn't just follow his father's rules, doesn't just do the obvious traditions and the things people were doing, but just makes wise, sensible and godly decisions. He doesn't shrink back, he's not waiting, he's not worrying. He wants to get rid of these Philistine invaders who are the massive injustice bringers to the people of Israel, trying to, one, take the land they've been promised, and two, just live nice, healthy, wise, good lives. And so, you know, he just goes down. He's brave, he's young, he's out there, and he, you know, he criticises his dad. What's this stupid idea that we're not going to eat in the middle of a battle because we won't finish the battle? Like if God says don't eat, because he'll supernaturally give you the power to do it. But if it's like this weird thing we're doing for the sake of it, to prove something, and I think this is the kind of, God wants people to move from superstition and tradition in this to build a nation of Israel that truly listens and knows him. He's looking for a relationship. He's not looking for weird most of the nations around that time did weird cultic practices. They kind of had all kinds of weird things they had to do to get to God. And already Yahweh's trying to set up a different nation with people who know him. He's looking for a man after his own heart to lead them. Not a guy who just follows the rules, but who listens to him. And this is the big thing. It's obedience and listening and knowing God and following him with boldness and passion and obedience. And this is what is trying to be brought out in these things. You know, massive risk-taking guy, Jonathan. Like, you know, just goes for it and enjoys it. And, you know, then we have this honey thing, and then we have Saul, and the other people have to step in and save him because he's the one who, you know, Jonathan set up the winning of the battle. There's then a kind of roundup at the end of Saul's family and what he did. As long as he lived, he had to fight hard against the Philistines. So every time Saul saw a strong or brave man, he took him into his army. And this is kind of going back to earlier in Samuel, where they've asked for a king. And Samuel said to them, well, if you have a king, he'll take your strongest men into his army. He'll choose whichever women he wants to marry. He'll take all your stuff. He will, like, you know, he won't be the perfect nice ruler like God is. He will take the best for himself. And that's kind of being pointed to, that they chose a king. It wasn't the best way, but this is the way they asked for and what God has given them. And that's the way that he's going to redeem and use. And Saul is this kind of messed up figure who does some things, he fights hard, he does the right stuff, but he just doesn't stop and listen to God. And it's, you know, similar to what I was saying yesterday, but rather than just saying Saul doesn't, here's Jonathan, this bold guy. So if we learn to listen to God, it's then having the confidence, the trust, the boldness to step out and say, hey, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to believe that whatever the odds are, whatever it looks like, whatever it sounds ridiculous, I'm going to take on things for God. And we're not going to be in battle with sword and spears and all the rest of it. But we might be in battle in prayer. We might be in battle with the depth of how we love for people. We might be in battle in putting ourselves on display, in sharing the gospel with others and telling people about Jesus. So where can you step out in trust, having listened to God's voice, in boldness and passion, and be a Jonathan and not a Saul?